Cardano holders, be warned. So, at the current time, guys, Cardano is sitting at around about the 82 cent mark, and I think a lot of people are getting frustrated. There's been a couple negative things that have come out, which I'll address in a minute, but overall, I think that we're still very much so on track, and we look at a lot of altcoins in the market, and they're pretty much doing the exact same thing. People are getting frustrated, expecting that the price should be higher than what it should due to last cycle, but let me just talk about a few things. But before we jump into that, guys, quick disclaimer here. Please read this with care. This video is not financial advice. Crypto is volatile and highly risky. No results are guaranteed. This content is for experienced users only, and there's a full legal disclaimer in the description below. So, looking at ADA at the moment, this is some of the FUD that I've been seeing online. It's about how ADA has been going to be left behind because it wasn't in this Kraken listing. And although this might be a bit disappointing for a lot of the ADA holders out there, I still think that there's many things to be positive, and just because of the fact that we don't necessarily, as holders of ADA, get noticed in absolutely everything, and included in this one, for example, from the United States Department of Commerce, I still think that it doesn't really matter that much in the overall scheme. Of course, it's one of those things that it's a bit of a shame to miss out on, but I don't think it takes away the price point where I think that ADA can actually get to and that I've discussed before, because there's still so many really positive things, and this is just one of those things which is a little bit unfortunate to be left out of, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter too much in the long term. So when we look at this, let's actually focus on what's gone quite well with ADA. So at the current time of recording, Cardano is sitting at number 10 in terms of bullishness in the community, which is really good to see, because again, there's a lot of people who hold ADA, and a lot of people kind of get insulted a bit for holding ADA, or there's a lot of haters on ADA. So I think a lot of people refrain to speak about ADA and the fact that they really like it and they know how valued it is and what it really can do. So for me, this is a really positive thing that we see ADA doing quite well here, and it might be a bit of a silent majority, but it's another win at the end of the day, so that's a great thing to see. Again, this is getting quite a lot of impressions, and it's very recently as well, so it's very positive to see. And I want to show you this as well, guys. We are seeing that Cardano has roughly the same interest level as it did back in 2021 before it exploded, and again we can see that it was up 1,500%, and will it repeat itself, etc. But I think these are all very bullish things. This is by no means a guarantee that ADA is going to break out anytime soon, but it is an indication that ADA is moving in the right direction. After kind of all these years of the bear market, there's more interest coming into place, and people are caring about it. They're noticing ADA, and they really just want to understand why it can perform well, and at the end of the day, like what it actually does as a crypto. So this is a really positive thing, I think. Another green tick for the moment. Right, so the next thing as well, this is really big. So we can see that the White House officials secretly own millions of crypto, according to Coin Bureau here, but it's saying that 19 White House officials reportedly own up to 2.35 million Bitcoin, ETH, XRP, SOL, and ADA. And again, these are the same coins that are in the strategic reserve that Trump has proposed. So when we look at this, we've got to think about this, guys. There's a lot of powerful people in office that are holding ADA, and they're holding it for a reason, right? And the number one reason is they want to make money, in my opinion. There's no other reason why they would hold it. They might like the technology, but I think at the end of the day, they just want to make money. They want the country to make money, and personally, they want to do whatever they can to live a better life, of course. So I think this is really good to see. We're seeing people with a lot of influence looking at ADA and holding it, thinking, well, I can make a return on this if I hold it, if I can trade it over a long enough period of time. So this is really interesting, and I just want to think that it's worth sharing with this. Again, the next thing, I think this goes without saying, but we're seeing a post that Cardano is now fundamentally better positioned than what it was back at $3.10, and that's pretty obvious with the Midnight Privacy coin. We've had the Hydra TPS, the NASA partnership. We've had the Bitcoin OS, the strategic reserve, the ETFs. Of course, it's going to be fundamentally better than what it was previously, but it's showing you that it got to the $3.10 with pretty much purely just speculation. It was a roadmap, and they hadn't really completed anything that they had actually planned on completing, and now they've actually gone through with pretty much all of it so far, and it's really good to see. So when we're looking at the $3 in the previous bull run in 2021, there were so many less people in the crypto space, and so this is, for me, indicates massively that ADA is undervalued at the moment, and I think it has a great potential when we consider a lot of these different fundamentals. And you might be thinking, well, Tuki, despite so much negativity in the space, do you still think ADA can perform well? Should I sell? Like, I'm kind of worried about it. Well, for me personally, it doesn't take away what I think ADA can do in terms of price action. I spoke about this before. Although, for example, we need to compare it to Ethereum because Ethereum is the number one altcoin in my opinion. So, although we've seen ETH has now broken through its all-time high market cap, it's still very positive and in some ways is quite a big trigger for altcoin season to get started. Again, I've showed you the graph before with how the money flows. I mean, a lot of the money originally comes from Bitcoin, then people take profits, it flows down into Ethereum. People take profits from ETH, and then that starts to flow down into the larger caps and then into the smaller coins as well. So when we're seeing that, that's traditionally what happens in all the previous cycles. So when we're looking at ADA at the moment, we're seeing this at 82 cents. And with a market cap of 29 billion, if it was able to reach just half of what ETH did last run, it would be a 9.5x from current levels. And I do think that's possible, but I wouldn't say it's worth holding until that may or may not happen without taking any profits, right? It's really, really important that you have a plan. So for me personally, I'm going to be sticking to my original price range, which is the $5 to $7. And I think that this is a really conservative range. I think that this is possible, and I do think it can go higher. So there's no guarantee, but I've mentioned before the 20% layering out method when you take out your money in different 20% chunks as you go up. You secure your initial profit on the way up on the first and second sell, and then on your third sell, fourth sell, the amount of money that you make exponentially increases, and on the fifth one you can potentially leave that to moonbag. So you can do that in a way that maximizes profits and minimizes as much risk as possible. Like we mentioned here, severe bull case, I do think an 8 to 12 range could be possible if only, I have to note, we have all of these things come into place. So we would need to have the quantitative easing continuing. We'd need that to be in full force. We would need Bitcoin to reach $250k and ADA to sustain a 4.5% market dominance. We'd need all of these things to come in place at the same time. So again, ADA holders, keep to your original plan. Don't be scared out by a couple bad news articles and some bad press. It's still a coin which I personally believe that can do quite well, and there's a reason that you bought it in the first place and that you have conviction in it. So hopefully this has provided you with some value, and thank you very much.